So the Engagement Development Platform, we refer to it sometimes as EDP, it is really about taking real-time communications platforms and opening them up. And what I mean by that is these systems traditionally have been very closed. So how do you open this so that developers can put together new use cases that were just never possible before? And that's what Engagement Development Platform enables. And as it's called, it's a platform. So it allows developers to enhance it. It allows developers to add new functionality to it. And really it allows them to develop use cases that they've never been able to develop before. Now, Engagement Development Platform, what makes it so unique is that in this industry, there's never really been this idea of middleware, of taking a communications platform underneath of it, putting this middleware on top of it, and then opening it up for the developers for these new applications. So it is very innovative and unique in our industry. Now, in other industries like the web, for example, or web-based applications, this concept of middleware is something that's been around for the long time. But what we've done is we've very uniquely applied it to the communication space, and that's what makes it so different. It's really been decades, of course, that communication has been around, whether that's voice or video, virtually any type of communication. And what's so exciting about it is the fact that it now gives developers the ability to develop their own unique applications that just weren't possible before. So in the past, it would be Avaya, for example, would say, here's the 6 or 7 applications that we have. And it would really be up to the customer to adopt their business to what it is that we do. And it was that way in the entire industry. What this now gives the customer the ability to do is to take our platform and have it adapt to their business needs. And we call that being use case driven. So rather than us going to a customer and says, here's the 50 features that this application has, it's here's the engagement development platform. What's the very specific use case that you want to solve? And by having it be open, have it be something that's very easy and rapid to do, and also extensible so they can add their own new capabilities to it, that's what's really exciting for. Oh, I think it's really a huge game changer. This idea of really turning things completely upside down. And like I said, it's rather than the customer having to constantly adapt to the technology that they've been accustomed to from this industry, it now just flips at 180 degrees, and it is now them taking their specific use cases and being able to adapt that to their specific business. That's a game changer in our industry. So let me give you some specific use cases, and this will help in really demonstrating how different this is. So in the past, if I said there's a business problem that you want to solve, the technologies that you would choose from, for example, might be an IP-PBX or an IVR, or in the contact center, an ACD or an outbound dialer. So as long as your use cases fit those, you're okay. But many, in fact, I could argue the majority of use cases don't fit that. So here's some examples. We had a very large university in the United States that had a very specific problem that they needed to solve, and that was that by law, if anyone ever had an emergency inside of an elevator, they had to be able to get to a live person for help via the phone in the elevator within a very short period of time, something like less than 1 minute. In the past, you wouldn't just take a IP-PBX and apply to that, or you wouldn't take an IVR. That's a very unique use case. So now with the Engagement Development Platform, they were literally able in a couple of days to take their specific requirements and to be able to solve that in that short a period of time. And that was because the platform was easy for developers to use, and it also was tailored to their specific need. Now that university has expanded from that one application that we call the elevator application to about 20 different applications, all the way from how they manage parking at the university. Now, if my parking space is about to expire, the system will automatically detect that and communicate with me as student or faculty real time. And that could be through a phone call or that could be through SMS, and tell me that my parking space is getting ready to expire. And through that device, I can extend the time. Again, those are applications that don't really apply to traditional communications applications. And it's something that Engagement Development Platform made very, very easy to do. Let me give you another example. We call this multi-touch. It's not unusual now that all of us as consumers would like to be able to use virtually any channel that's available. So I may choose to chat, I may choose to call on voice, I may choose to use video. In this particular use case, it would be, as a customer, it would be the company that would call me. And they may call me for some type of a notification. For example, let's say that they believed that my credit card had been compromised and there may have been some fraudulent transaction on my credit card. They would want to notify me of that as quickly as possible. Or let's say that I was at a medical facility and I had a test performed and they want to notify me of the results of that. Now that's something that would be relatively complex to do with just voice. So imagine the system called me, I answered on my phone, and it started on the phone to try to describe to me the results of my medical test. It would be much easier if I could see those. So with multi-touch, all built on Engagement Development Platform, I could get the phone call that says, "Hi, this is the clinic calling you about your results. What if I just show you results on your mobile device while I'm still talking to you?" So now the results show up on my mobile device and I look at those and if I have any questions, I can just simply push the button. And because I'm already on the phone, it will transfer me to the expert or to the knowledgeable person that could answer my questions. And again, that could be in the banking industry around credit cards, for example. It could be in education, it could be in healthcare. These are all use cases that are very real use cases, but using traditional means were difficult to or impossible to implement. With Engagement Development Platform, these are all things that now take hours, maybe at most a few days to develop, as opposed to either being impossible or take weeks, months, or years to develop. So we're really changing the industry. It's now open, it's now rapid, and it's now extensible. Those are really the three key things that are common to all these use cases I've talked about. So in the past, what we've typically seen communications do is either applied to a typical enterprise or applied to a typical contact center. Those were the main two cases for communication. And if you looked at other areas of the companies, let's say that it's manufacturing and you're looking at the manufacturing floor, or it's shipping and you're looking at the shipping dock, typically all that was there was just a telephone. That was their only form of communications. Now with Engagement Development Platform, all of that can be fully automated. So let's say that I'm in the manufacturing area and I detect a problem in manufacturing. Imagine Engagement Development Platform automatically determined the best people to notify of that problem on the shop floor, automatically invite them to either a voice or a video conference call, and send that information out to them automatically wherever they happen to be, on their mobile device, on their phone, on their desk, through SMS, through email. And now with a single click, that person could now join into that video or voice conference to help solve that manufacturing floor problem. That's just an easy and a great example of how we've taken a common phone that would be in that area and changed that into something like dynamic teaming that I just described. That's a huge transformation, and that's what we're really talking about when we talk about digital transformation. Very easy to now take that example from a manufacturing floor and start to bring that into other areas. Education is a great example. I want to bring classrooms together. Healthcare, I want to bring people together during an emergency, for example. So just that one simple use case can be used in many, many different places. And I get back to this idea that it's all about being use case driven. It's about, what do I want to happen? What forms of communications do I want to have to best solve my problem for my company? And that's where EDP comes into play, of being able to very quickly adapt to those needs. And I think that's the big differentiator and why we're going to see such a change in the industry. So what's interesting is that if you look at any type of business, there are millions, billions of business events that trigger things. And one of the complications historically in communications was, how do you capture these events? How do you take all these analytics that are occurring, and how do you act upon those? And normally, in the traditional sense, it would be, for example, simply a customer picking up the phone and calling a contact center, or an employee picking up the phone and calling another employee. These were very, very simple use cases. But those are a minority of the use cases that really happen in any normal business. So in the example I gave of the manufacturing floor, what's interesting about that is what triggered that event was not someone making a phone call. What triggered that event was a problem occurred in the manufacturing line. That could have been one machine detecting that it had a problem and automatically notifying. So now imagine that engagement development platform picked up on that event and automatically executed that use case. So it's no longer has to be something that is started by a person. It could be something that's started by any number of analytic evaluations. It could be something breaks on the manufacturing floor. It could be something's happened to my website. It could be something's occurred in a patient's test. So just imagine that all these are things that can trigger the need for communications. Engagement Development Platform acts as that broker or middleware between that business event and what you want the business outcome to be. And you're no longer limited by what those business events can be. Now, one thing that's really important when you start thinking about that middleware or that broker is workflow automation. Because what this is really all about is business event triggering it, workflow automation taking over and determining exactly how to react to that business event, and then what the outcome of that is that business outcome. So at the heart of Engagement Development Platform is workflow automation. It's not the only thing in Engagement Development Platform, but it is one of the main capabilities of that middleware. One unique feature of Engagement Development Platform are what we call snap-ins. And I've mentioned this idea of extensibility. And extensibility is, how do you take something and extend its capabilities? And EDP is highly extensible. So one of the things that you can look forward to are not just the dozen or so snap-ins that we have today, but tens and hundreds of snap-ins in the future. And these will be snap-ins that we'll develop at Avaya. These will be snap-ins that our partner community will develop, or these snap-ins will even be developed by our customer. There's really no limits to that. So one thing we're really looking forward to is to watch the number of snap-ins and the capabilities of these snap-ins grow. Now, these snap-ins can be very, very specific. I may be a customer that develops a highly customized snap-in just for my business. Or these snap-ins may be something that are quite generic and might not only be useful to me, but may be useful to thousands of companies around the world. So we're really looking forward to watching this idea of developing custom snap-ins catch on and see what happens in the development community. So that's one thing. The second thing is the number of use cases that you'll be able to implement out of the box with Engagement Development Platform. Today you can do virtually any use case with the development that you would rapidly do, but we want more and more of that to be built right into Engagement Development Platform, so it makes the implementation of these use cases even more rapid. So that's something else to look forward to in the next few months. So one of the things that we'll see in early 2016 is what we call Snap Store. And we call it Snap Store because it's off of the App Store, but it's for snap-ins. And what that will be is a repository where Avaya will put custom snap-ins there that will become available to our partners and to our customers. Partners and our customers will also be able to put snap-ins into the Snap Store. And these can be snap-ins that could be distributed for no charge, or these may be snap-ins that our partners and customers would like to resell. And the whole idea is to create an ecosystem to where it's very easy to go to one place, regardless of who authored those snap-ins, and see what's available that can help you put your use case together more rapidly. Now, I mentioned snap-ins and the Snap Store. And I always like to give the analogy that snap-ins are like Lego blocks. Think of them as they each do something very unique. And by putting these snap-ins together and combining them in unique ways, I can get very, very unique applications. And those can be very small applications that may only take 1 or 2 snap-ins, or these might be very complex applications that might take 10 or 12 different snap-ins to be put together. But the key there is you can put them together very rapidly. So instead of taking months to do development, you can now take days and in some cases a few weeks. Well, we've seen customers that have taken projects that they had not completed over a period of up to 2 years and were literally able to take those projects that they had attempted to use other technologies in the industry and be able to do exactly the same thing in Engagement Development Platform over a few days. We have one example of a customer that took a project that they had not yet completed in 2 years, and they were able to completely start from scratch and complete that program in Engagement Development Platform in 2 days. That's pretty remarkable. Not for EDP yet.
Okay.
Right, because they're in the midst of building their custom applications
Okay.
in their particular case.
Okay.
Totally sold on it. Their biggest challenge is getting the EDP part is easy, but they have to convince another group within the company to put it inside of their test application. That's always the hardest part, right? So the EDP is fast. Getting that to be put inside their own application, slow.
Yeah.
But they're actually getting there quite rapidly, and they're very, very excited about what the capabilities are. And that's another example of something you wouldn't think of communications playing a big part in is in cars. And being able to automatically execute use cases when the car detects something, not just a human being picking up the phone, but this device detecting something and then want to automatically invoke communications. These are just examples of very, very unique use cases that were just not possible in the past. So it's gone from impossible to something that's not only possible, but something you can do quickly, easily, and rapidly. So let me give you a use case that talks about this idea of really no human intervention. So imagine that you have a car, and one of the things that's very normal in cars nowadays is they can automatically detect tire pressure. So imagine if the car detected a tire pressure problem, and instead of just notifying you on the dash, what if it could automatically notify Engagement Development Platform, and that could automatically notify you? So let's say that the car is in my garage and I haven't even seen my car for the last 4 or 5 hours, and all of a sudden I get a notification to where my car is communicating with me and telling me that I have a flat tire. And not only that, but it is informing me that it is automatically notified the people who can repair that flat tire, and it is now notifying me when they will be there to fix it. All done automatically. So that's a combination of taking new business events, in this case, an automobile detecting a flat, and then combining that with communications. And that can be communications to the repair service and to communications to me as an owner. So I think those are great examples of how communications are going to play a part in use cases that we've just never even thought of up to this point. It is so innovative that we've just not yet seen anyone in our space pick up on this. It is so different than what most companies in our space are all about. What's interesting is we've seen most of the investment be in new desktop clients. And this is an area that, of course, we think that having capabilities on desktops are important, but we really don't see it as the next innovation. We see that as the user interface or the presentation layer that makes it all possible. But it is still very unique when it comes to this idea of workflow automation and a broker middleware system in the communication space. I don't think it'll be long before the rest of the world figures out that this is something that is unique and innovative and they have to follow us. But up to this point, we have a very nice head start. Based on what we've developed up to this point, I think a relatively conservative time frame would probably be around a 3-year time frame. A couple of reasons. Number one is its uniqueness and how innovative it is. And secondly, it's not like you can just go out and acquire someone and have that technology brought in the next day. Anytime you have something this unique, you pretty much have to go out and invent it. So I think conservatively, we have about a 3-year head start. No, for telephony, you need Aura. In the future, we are looking at engagement development platform for IP Office as well. But today, if you want to have telephony involved, then you do need Aura. If you don't need telephony, then engagement development platform can work on many other forms of media, SMSs, emails, chat, etc. But if you want telephony, today the platform it runs on top of is the Aura platform. To implement's actually pretty straightforward. First of all, it's all software, right? So no hardware to be installed. Secondly, it's all virtualized. So you just put this right on top of VMware. We recommend that you don't run with a single instance. You'll always want to have high availability and redundancy. So you would typically, at a minimum, bring up 2 instances of engagement development platform. The other nice feature about EDP is the fact that it uses System Manager, which is the same System Manager software that's used in Aura. So I don't have to learn a new type of system management. What I already know today in the way that I maintain Aura is exactly the same way that I maintain EDP. So it makes it pretty easy to train. So if you already have Aura today and or you already have Scopia today, then adding EDP on top of it is pretty straightforward. That's a trick question. It really depends on what you do with it. If you today have suites, then by definition, you're already licensed for core engagement development platform. Everyone that has our suites for the seats in their contact center or their enterprise already has core. On the other hand, I can add things on top of that like speech analytics. That would add cost. I can add attribute-based routing with work assignment engine. That can add cost. I can add context. So it really depends on how many snap-ins and what snap-ins I'm going to use to determine what the overall cost is. But what a lot of our customers don't realize is that for core functionality of Engagement Development Platform, they already have it today. All virtualized. So one nice thing about Engagement Development Platform is it's very straightforward to bring up in what would typically be a private cloud situation. There's nothing that says that it couldn't be a public cloud, but the key there is it's already fully virtualized. In fact, the only way you can deploy Engagement Development Platform is in a virtualized environment. And the reason we did that is so that it can scale out. It was always built to scale out, which is important. Many traditional software platforms were built to scale up, but they weren't built to scale out. And one thing that the virtualization gives you is a very easy way to scale out. One of the keys of Engagement Development Platform is adoption by the development community. And that can be ourselves as developers at Avaya. That could be partners that might want to develop snap-ins that they would make available to their customers. Or probably most importantly is our own customers, the Avaya customers. And so because that adoption by the developers is so important, making sure that developers know what EDP is and that they know how to develop in EDP is very critical. So one of the things that we determined very early that was going to be important was to get Engagement Development Platform in front of the developers and make sure that they had great hands-on experience. And that's what resulted in our EDP Bootcamp. And what that is that's 3 full days of very intensive hands-on by developers with Engagement Development Platform. So they learn how to take existing snap-ins and develop unique use cases. They learn how to develop their own custom snap-ins, which is great, so they can now extend Engagement Development Platform. And they also learn how to write what we call new task types inside of the workflow automation system, which is the Engagement Designer. So it isn't just one thing that they're learning in the boot camp. They're actually learning all about Engagement Development Platform, and they're learning virtually every area that you can go in and do some form of custom development. Yeah, so it's always interesting when you talk to developers about Engagement Development Platform. I don't think the boot camp is any different. First, they all bring a unique perspective to the boot camp, because remember, this is all about being use case driven. So every developer is going to bring their own unique set of use cases to the table. So they all look at it from a very different perspective. I think that's exciting. Secondly, there's nothing better for developers to get their hands on great development platforms. Virtually every developer gets excited about that. It's something new, but it's something that they can see great efficiencies and productivity in a very short period of time. So this is not something where they go to boot camp and then a year later they produce their first application. This is something where they're actually producing applications and snap-in capabilities right within those 3 days. So they're already seeing the uniqueness of how rapid you can put these things together. That's also a great proof point of the boot camp. Sure. Interesting, even though this was our first boot camp, on the calendar we already have 3 more ready to go. One we actually have just for one single customer. They've completely filled up the classroom just by themselves, and that one we're actually going to have the boot camp on their facilities, at their place of business. On top of that, just within the month of February, we already have 2 more boot camps planned and on the calendar. One of those will be in our corporate headquarters in Santa Clara, California. And then the following week after that will be our Engagement Development Platform boot camp in Pune, India. And that'll take us through February. I fully expect that we'll do something very, very similar in Europe. And I expect that we would do something in the near future in Asia Pacific as well.